Welkom by nog 'n episode van nisBOERE. Vandag gaan kyk ons na 'n produk wat almal van ons omtrent elke dag gebruik en nodig het. En saam met my na hierdie produkte gaan kyk, het ons vir Corneille Liebenberg, bemarkingsdirekteur van Laveld Agrochem. Hallo Corneille.
Hey Andri,
Goed om jou te sien. Philip Venter, markontwikkelingsbestuurder by Laveld Agrochem. Dankie dat jy hier is. Russell de Pre, hoof van die Russell Stone groep. Maar manne, kom ons gaan leer 'n bietjie van koffie by die Assegai Plaza naby Durban in Natal.
well, we started about 28, nearly 30 years ago. We purchased the Assegai coffee farm,
Okay.
and then that got too small. We were there for about 12 years. That got too small, so we sold that and we came to this farm here.
What was the decision that made you become a farmer of coffee? What did you do before this?
I was in sales and marketing in the corporate world, but all my life I'd always wanted to farm. And then one day we were visiting some friends in the Assegai Valley, and I fell in love with that valley, and I said to my friend, I've got to come and live here. And he pointed out of his kitchen window and he said, there's a little coffee farm for sale. And then as the years went by, we discovered a research farm in Nelspruit. So we went there and they taught us a bit more, and we were able to get some books from them. And then as the years went by, of course, I started to learn more, but just by my own experiences. And then the internet came along and I was able to learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
And so it went from there.
Yeah.
And we
Depending
got to
on
where we are now.
what information on the internet you can trust.
That's right, and there's so much of it.
But these trees look so happy and healthy.
They're very happy, yeah. What we've done is we've been experimenting now with coffee growing under shade. So we've left these big trees, and I've noticed the leaves are bigger, they're greener, they're getting lots more coffee on, so they're very happy. And that's all to do with climate change. We're a lot hotter, or we're getting hotter. We're becoming more tropical here. So they are enjoying having a bit of shade.
Okay, so how does it work? You get the plants where? You buy it somewhere? I suppose at a nursery? The coffee plant? Where?
No, I seed my own.
You seed your own?
I take my own seed and I plant them in the nursery. I'll take the seedlings from there and plant them out.
Lovely rain, but let's get out of it. What's the next step?
Next step is to go and look at the rest of the process leading up to roasting.
Great, let's do that. Well, luckily this is under roof. You must be thankful for the rain anyway.
Yes.
It's always, rain is always welcome. This is the third step after you've taken it from the trees. It first goes, is it peeling?
It goes to the peeler, or what they call a pulping machine.
Yeah,
That removes the skins.
yeah,
Then it flows out of that machine into tanks and it ferments for a couple of days.
yes.
Then we wash them. Then we put them in the sun on the racks outside to dry.
Yes.
They dry there for 2 to 3 weeks in the sun. Then we bring them, when they're nice and dry like this, we bring and load up here.
Wow, there's a lot of coffee here.
Yeah, plenty.
Look at this.
Now all of that coffee that's up at the top there, it flows down into this one here, right?
Yeah.
And inside there's a big metal worm,
Yeah,
like a big screw.
yes,
And it pulls it all together
Yeah.
and crushes the beans against each other.
right,
And it breaks the shell off.
Okay.
So like we were doing with our fingers, that does it in that machine.
yes,
The shells are light, they fall down and they get extracted out through that pipe.
right,
Then the beans are slightly heavier, they fall down, they go up there into that big box.
right,
Right, and inside that big box there's a whole series of sieves which the beans flow into, and then they have to find their way through so that we can get different sizes coming out.
okay,
Right, so we grade it all by size,
right,
because when we roast at very high temperature. And if you've got big beans and small beans mixed up, then the small ones will burn first.
Yeah.
So we can now grade them into their own sizes. I can roast them all separately, and then I can grind them, I can sell them out as a full bean, whichever thing I want to do. Aha, this is the roaster.
and smell it. Wow.
So here's the roaster.
What a great, like, not burnt, but burnt smell, eh?
Yes, now you're right on top of it, yeah. Those beans that went into that big box.
Yeah.
And we sorted. Then we
Yes.
bring them in here, right? Put it about 15
manually
kilos.
in there, okay.
Yeah, and they roll down into there.
Yeah.
There's an inner drum in there. You can
Yeah.
see the beans turning.
Those are the unroasted ones. yeah.
Unroasted, and they got gas burning underneath.
Right.
Right. And that'll burn at about 200 to 250 degrees,
Wow.
right? For about 15 to 20 minutes.
So what makes the different roasts, the medium and the stronger and the...
That's your time. So, in other words, we're doing a medium roast.
Right.
We're going to roast for 15 to 20 minutes. Right?
Is that all?
Yeah. We know how long it's going to take. We've got a digital readout there on the temperature.
Right.
So we know that at medium, we're going to be around about 200 degrees.
Right.
Right. But then we go one step further. We can take a sample. There's a few beans in there. It tells you
yeah.
it's not ready.
Yeah.
All right, because that's the color we want. So you just put that back like that, and then let it go a little bit longer. Keep an eye on the temperature, keep an eye on the time, and then when it's ready, we open here. And they flow into there, and then there's an extractor fan underneath that pulls cold air through the beans. So what you're doing here is we're getting the oils to flow. So we spoke about out on the fields, we had the beans stay on the trees longer, we got more oils in there. The oils give you the flavors. They give you your chocolates and vanillas and vines and all of the different flavors that make a good cup of coffee.
Right.
So what we do here is we use heat to get those oils to run.
Right.
And they mix inside the little bean.
Yes.
And then when we're ready, we want a medium roast that's a mild flavor, right? So here we're determining the strength of the coffee.
Yes. I'm now really list for a cup of coffee, but before we can have that, later we're going to speak to an expert that's going to talk to us about even bettering your product here.
Fantastic, I look forward to it.
Let's go. Hierna kyk die manne van Agri Technovation by Riek om te kyk of hulle kan help met ekstra bone vir beter moer. So, oom Riek, dit is Rian van Agri Technovation. Hy is die hoof senior landboukundige daar. Wat beteken hy weet nogal hoe om boere te help met hulle plantasies en landerye sodat hulle die beste opbrengs kan kry daaruit. So Rian, what is the first thing that you do when you meet a new farmer like Uncle Riek?
So the first thing Agri Technovation does when they get to a farm is to see if they can assist with general management in the orchard. We take all the soil samples, we do all the leaf samples, water samples, and from there we create a fertilizer program to, at the end of the day, get the yields that you want.
So Rick, from your perspective, what is it that you would want to know from somebody like Rian?
Well, first of all, we need to have a good look around the farm so he can see exactly where we are.
Yeah.
And then I would ask for everything that he's mentioned that help me improve my yields.
Yeah.
Which is basically what we need all the time. Yeah.
So kom ons kyk byvoorbeeld na een aspek soos die vloer van hierdie plantasie. Wat is dit wat jy kan optel uit die klein loopie wat ons nou al hier gehad?
It's looking really, really nice. I think one thing with orchards, with most fruit crops, is that in South Africa we have a really limited amount of organics in our soil. And that helps with soil microlife, which we can also assist you with, being that we have a microlife center. So that keeps the soil alive, that helps make the nutrients available to the plants. And you can't improve if you can't measure it.
No.
And that's why we take the soil samples.
What is the time of in the season, in the cycle of a coffee plant that you would get involved in, or can you get involved at any time?
We'd like to get involved from the get-go to ensure that the soil requirements is correct for the optimum growth. So from vegetative growth, you have a bud initiation stage, flowering stage, and there's a bunch of manipulation that you can do to increase the flowering.
Rick, let's look at a specific plant and then we delve deeper into it. Take us to one that you'd like
Right,
to have a
let's
look
go and
at.
have a look up here.
You think this one perhaps?
Yes, this is an interesting tree.
Looks beautiful to me, you know, as a novice.
Yeah,
But
it's really good. It's full. We've had a good flowering, and we've had a number of good flowerings, and you can see that in that there's your first flowering, which is already ripe. All right, then there's a few more other flowerings where you can see the slightly smaller beans going to bigger, to bigger, to bigger, to ripe.
Yeah,
So
it had
that-
a lovely fruit set.
Yes.
I think one of the challenges that we do experience with coffee that makes it more labor intensive is the multiple flowerings.
Yes.
What we've seen is that if you add something like a potassium and a sulfur with a K2 perform and a seisme or something like that, then you get a more gradual, more even ripening of the fruit.
Oh, that would help.
Yes, and that would ease on the labor, it would ease on picking, management overall. I think it will help a lot.
Oh, that's great. I'd look forward to trying that. You see, the other problem that we come up with is like this leaf here.
I think your best shortages that you're going to pick up is with a leaf sample. We usually take healthy leaves, we send it away to a lab and it comes back. But as we follow a defined program, we know that what we're putting down, when we're putting it down, and we can actually see these symptoms coming down. I can see these symptoms are coming through on the older leaves.
Yes.
So sometimes it can be a nutritional deficiency. I know something like a coffee is very, very viable for something like rust, although this is a rust-free variety.
That's correct.
So that's all the type of things we should inspect and investigate.
Yeah.
I think with the fertilizer program going through, we can start managing that. We can see that with the leaf samples, the nitrogen in the leaves is sufficient to carry this crop, because you can see this is actually a very, very big crop.
Would you do that as a foliar spray, or would it be compost that you put down?
The best programs that we do see is definitely a combination of the two. So you do feed your main nutrients on the floor, okay? But we do stimulate the micronutrients as well as specific times, something like a potassium or a K2 perform that we do spray, which helps with ripening.
Right.
It's an interesting conversation, which is obviously a large conversation, but the thing about organic, does it mean the reason why you are not focusing on organic is because it's just more efficient not to do it?
Well, it all depends on your resources, but going organic, there's a lot of registration behind it. There's a lot of, if you go full organic, chemicals like herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, help with rust or with weeds can't be used, nor chemical fertilizer. But I think to have a combination between the two, to keep your soil health, not killing off all your micronutrients, but still giving the tree what it needs for optimum yield, is very sufficient, or is ideal.
I've found that you can run the two together, and the organic will continue to do what it has to do. We realize that to get that stamp is hugely expensive, and there's not, in the coffee world, a big leaning towards organic.
Right.
All right, mainly because we roast at very high temperature.
Yeah.
So any chemicals in there are going to get burnt off anyway. However, what we found is with pest control, if we're going to put too much chemicals, it's going to kill all the little nunus that you need for that control.
Wel, baie dankie vir jou tyd. Dit was 'n inspirerende gesprek. Goed om jou te ontmoet.
Bye, dankie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Soos enige goeie nisboer is Riek se kop na 30 jaar nog steeds oop vir nuwe idees. Hierna gaan ek uiteindelik van sy koffie proe en leer hoe hy in 'n oorwegend kitskoffiemark sy bone op ons tafels gekry het. Well, having spoken about coffee and looked at your beans all day, I think it's just the right for us to have a bit of coffee, don't you agree?
Absolutely.
What is your favorite way of drinking coffee?
I like this method, the plunger. I recommend it to a lot of people who are just starting out because of the inexpensive side of things.
Yes.
But you get a good idea of what the coffee tastes like.
Yes.
There's no milk, there's no sugar, so it gives you a good idea.
Is this some of your own coffee?
This is my own coffee, yes.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
That's lovely. I suppose when you started out about 30 years or so ago, it wasn't the easiest thing to just break into the market.
Absolutely. It was in KwaZulu-Natal especially was the powder coffee or instant coffee capital of South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of filter coffee being drunk, but we've watched this whole coffee explosion happen from powder coffee up to filter coffee and cappuccinos and the specialty coffees that are
so
now
many
available.
ways.
And of course the computer, internet has helped a lot.
Yeah.
So we've grown with this business, which has been really interesting. We did find that, in the beginning it was slow because we were locally grown.
And it was a bad thing to be locally grown because everything was
imported.
Yeah.
And the imported companies owned the industry. And as we've gone along, we've entered in through the retail market, where we've reached Mr. and Mrs. Housewife and Husband, who are loyal to locally grown products. And so we've been able to grow like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you don't just have that business. You've also got a place where people can come enjoy, and you take them on a tour.
Yeah. You see, we've always had interest in tours. We do a lot of school tours. I like to bring the kids in here and show them how coffee's grown, with view to maybe some of them becoming coffee farmers one day.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of educational tours for schools. And then, of course, we do private tours as well. So everything we do, because we run the business with the family, we all have our tasks, so we do ask for by appointment.
If I wanted to start farming coffee, how difficult is it?
It's a very, very big, expensive start off, because you've got to buy trees, you've got to buy land, you've got to clear the land. You've got to start planting. You wait another 4 years before you get any coffee out of them. So your beginning is very expensive. From then onwards, you have the expense of being a labor-intensive product. Everything's hand-picked. Then, of course, you have to process it. So you've got to buy equipment. Depending on the size you are, you can get away with smallish equipment, but it's still very expensive. As you get bigger and bigger, you need bigger and bigger equipment for processing. So all along the line, like any business, I guess there's a lot of money inputs until you get to the end.
Yeah. Well, here's to the future of good coffee and good success for
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Dis 'n lekker koppie koffie gewees daai, hoor. Manne, kom ons gesels gou-gou 'n bietjie oor die idee van 'n koffieplaas in Suid-Afrika. Corneille?
Ja, eerstens was het interessant dat het Natal is, maar ek glo net soos ek al uitgewys het, koffie is 'n groeiende mark. As jy kyk na die inset, is dit bly om te sien hy's oop vir raad. Iemand wat al 30 jaar in die besigheid is, nog steeds lus is en bereid is om te leer. Dit sien ons al hoe meer by die suksesvolle produsente en boere. So ek dink daar's 'n les vir almal wat kyk.
Wat belangrik is dat jy wil 'n homogene produk hê jaar op jaar, want jou barista soek dit dat hy seker kan wees dat sy koffie elke keer dieselfde proe. En hoe mens dit kan regkry is om gebruik te maak van tegnologie, en dis waarom die Agri-Tech Innovations manne ook daar was om vir mense uit te wys wat se tekortkominge daar is wat 'n mens kan aanspreek, en sodoende gaan jy jou opbrengste verbeter.
Ek dink daar is geleentheid in Suid-Afrika om 'n paar van hierdie plase te ontwikkel en unieke plekke. So ek dink dadelik kan George area kan dalk 'n area wees waar jy so iets kan doen, en dan die waardeketting daar bou waar jy oor vakansies ewe skielik mense soontoe kan gaan, soos van die wynplase wat daar rond is. En dan dink ek mens moet die hele waardeketting speel. Jy kan nie net eendimensioneel dink op koffie nie. Daar's net te veel koffies op die mark.
Ek het vir julle 'n verrassingkie hierso, stap saam met my, dan gaan proe ons 'n bietjie. Dankie. Alright, wel hier is julle verrassing, the smiling barista, Craig.
Hey.
Hallo,
Corneille.
Hey,
Philip.
Hallo Philip.
Russell.
Hallo Russell.
Hoe gaan dit met jou?
Goed en self. Daar's hy. Hallo julle.
Lekker. Ons is hier om nou 'n bietjie te leer van die eindmark van koffie. Okay manne, so waarvoor gaan julle?
Ek was vir daai sterk billetjie.
Ja, daai sterk klink my baie lekker.
Cortado.
Asseblief, dankie.
Ek gaan hom stryd vat asseblief.
Daar's hy.
Ek hoor jy moet hom so drink.
Daar's hy.
Wat ons nou self ook agtergekom het, is dat jy het miskien 'n ekstra manier nodig om jou produkte in die mark te kry. En dis nou een van hulle, nê?
maak die mark bietjie groter en ek bedoel dis 'n veranderende tendens en gewoonte in amper kultuur dat almal wil koffie drink en jy sien al hoe meer van hierdie koffiewinkels en mobiele koffiewinkels.
Ja.
So ek dink vir die koffieboer is hulle moet hierdie tipe besighede verwelkom want dit vergroot hulle mark aansienlik.
Ons drink nou Assegai. Dit wat ons huidigelik drink is die medium roast wat hulle het. Hulle het 'n kombinasie van 'n geblende espresso en 'n dark roast wat bietjie van 'n sterker koffie is. Elkeen van hulle se smake verskil. So die uitdaging met dit is die feit dat jy moet besluit wat een is vir die lekkerste. Koffie het nogal baie verander. Daar's nie meer blikkies koffie nie. Ons het nou gevorder na lekker koffie en 'n barista, interessant genoeg, is nie noodwendig iemand wat net koffie kan maak nie. Ja. Dis iemand wat die hele proses verstaan. Van die koffieboon, van waar hy vandaan kom, die proses deur roasting, die verskillende geure wat jy bymekaar sit om 'n koffie te maak in 'n koppie.
So jy kry hom so en jou masjien
ek kry die
verwerk
koffie so van die plaas af en dan van daar af miskien dan ek maal hom basies in 'n fynere vorm en met dit maak ek espresso. Enigiets op daai spyskaart is eintlik van 'n espresso gebaseer. So espresso is die begin van die koffie en die manier hoe jy die melk bysit of die geursel goed bysit verander die hele proses en dit maak van jou of 'n cappuccino of 'n flat white of 'n cortado soos wat julle nou gaan geniet.
Wat is vir jou belangrik van die boom wat jy kry van jou kliënt af?
Ja.
Om 'n konstante smaak te hê. Dis die een ding wat vir ons redelik belangrik is want 'n persoon wat koffie drink hou van 'n sekere smaak. Dis amper soos 'n whisky drink. Jy hou of daarvan of nie. So jy kry vir jou iets waarvan jy geniet en as jy konstant dieselfde smaak kan kry, dan gaan jy terugkom vir dit.
So gaan ons nou Assegai drink hierso.
Julle gaan Assegai drink.
Watter een?
Hierdie spesifieke wat ons nou het is die medium blend. So dis die koffieboontjie wat ons nou fyn gemaal het in daai in en met dit het ons nou vir julle espresso shots gemaak en van die espresso shot gaan ons nou vir julle cortados maak.
Koop regtig die Assegai steekie in my keel vas nie, maar
Ja, presies.
die groot ding vir my hierso is die route to market.
Ja.
Is lyk heeltemal anderster vandag. Is 'n ongelooflike geleentheid vir mense wat moontlik op harde tye geval het
Ja.
om dalk ietsie te doen.
Daar's hy meneer.
Okay, kom ek gee aan
cortados.
Lisa.
Dankie, thanks.
Wil julle
Dubbel
suiker
shot
Lyk baie
espresso?
lekker. Nee, ek gaan
Ek is soet genoeg.
eers so proe.
Baie dankie.
'n Lekker koffie het nie noodwendig suiker nodig nie. So ja.
Baie dankie dat jy saam met ons gekuier het. Ek dink dis 'n goeie idee om dalk 'n bietjie plaaslike koffiemakers te ondersteun. Cheers daarop.
Cheers.
Cheers julle.
Baie dankie.
Cheers julle.
Daar's hy.
Volgende keer besoek Kim die Zini Fish Farm op die noordkus van Natal, waar daar met soutwater tilapia geboer word. En sy leer van die ingewikkelde en fascinerende telingsproses